Hey Daniel, Nelson Mason here. So sorry for the delay, mate. It's completely my fault. I don't know. I was waiting on data, but I never asked anybody for the data. Clearly, I never actually sent the email. So anyway, here we are. So I'll run through this lap of Thompson, um, and we'll get right down to it. Okay, and we'll make some adjustments and kind of find how we can really maximize our performance in this car. It's not going to, the fundamentals don't change car to car. A lot of people think that they do, but realistically, like, you know, hitting our apexes, getting on power at the apexes, maximizing our full throttle time, these are the things that matter. And it doesn't matter what car we're in, it's all about how efficient we are on the brakes, how efficient we are on the throttle. So that's really the main focus. That gets us to basically, 90% of the job. And then we start whittling away at that last 10%. So we'll get right to it, heading down the straight. One thing I really think for this video, I mean, we definitely need to just take notice of this. So we're full throttle down the straight, and for the most part, and we start getting out of the gas here. Now, this long and the short, this needs to stop. So we need to be full throttle all the way to when we're not full throttle, as in when we're actually going to brake, decelerate, bring it into the corner, etc. So we need to be, full throttle all the way to when we're basically getting to our braking zone. And if that means with this car that we realistically have to be coming from way over here and coming in, then so be it. I don't really care. We can't just give up time for the sake of giving up time, because at the end of the day, that's all that we're chasing. So I'm going to leave this on here the whole time because it's going to be our focus throughout the lap. Now, as we go, we continue lifting, even though we think that we're accelerating, but we're really not accelerating to our maximum. We brake, and this is another fundamental that we do. We clearly just push the clutch in, and we brake, and we downshift, and then we drop it into the gear. I want to avoid that because using the engine braking is massively effective in how quickly we can slow down the car. So we need to, from fourth gear, like I know you're clicking it into third, clicking it into second, and then releasing the clutch. We need to be on the brakes, down into third, down into second, and then away we go. All right. So really, we need to constantly be in the gear, because at the end of the day, in a race situation, someone might dive down the inside of us. We need to be in the right gear at the right time in order to be able to battle that. We can't wait for, okay, now we got to pop the clutch before we can turn the wheel, because then it's going to spin the rear tires back up, et cetera, et cetera. We need to, just on the brakes, boom, one downshift, two downshift, and away we go. So let's try to avoid doing that as much as possible. We actually get on throttle at the right point. So we carry our deceleration in nice and deep. Now this is, again, we're probably slowing the car down a bit too early because we're out of the brake here, and we're not really struggling with the car at all. So it tells me that we're really not maximizing the corner speed all the way, but that's okay. I mean, that's the last thing that we really have to worry about. We do want to trail brake right into the corner, right into the apex, boom, on throttle at the corner. Then away we go. Now, as we do this, just keep an eye on the throttle. So now we've exited the corner. We're 40%, 30%, 40%, 55%. We never get to full throttle. Now, this becomes apparent throughout the lap. So this is where I'm going to cut to the data. And it really, like, it's there's probably a second and a half just in the time that we're giving up from not getting to full throttle. So as we cut to the data, here we have it. So here's our RPM. Here, we'll do this. Here's our RPM trace. This is our speed trace, and this is our throttle trace. Now, this looks a little bit funky, right? Here is full throttle. So this is where the car actually, this is where we are actually full throttle, and that's on the straight. So look, through the whole lap, we never touched full throttle once until the straight. And I want to show you, we think it's not that big of a deal maybe, but if we look, okay, when we are full throttle, so here, I'm going to just clear all the drawings. When we're full throttle here, look at our acceleration curve. It's like dead nuts straight up. Look at our RPM curve. It's a straight line. Now look at all of our curves from here. They're all kind of, they're all wonky, right? They're never like the straight crest that we want them to be. They're just kind of wonky. It's just like we're kind of making them up. You know, it looks like I drew them basically. They're never a straight line. They should, your RPM should look like this. Right, the whole way. That's how it should look. That's how it should look. Our speed trace, same thing. You know, here where it's kind of like whoop, whoop, whoop. This is, you know, this is the issue. Our speed trace again should look like this. Boom, braking. Womp, boom, braking. Womp, boom, braking. That's how it should always look, and not just like these crests and mounds kind of thing. So what that means is, like, say we had gotten on the throttle how we should have. So way up, full throttle, boom. Okay, we shut off here. So this is how our throttle trace should look, right up to full throttle. So our speed trace would have looked like this. Maybe not even crest that much. Okay, we're off throttle. Okay, so just in here, this area here is time loss. All of this in here is time loss. Time loss, time loss, time loss. Now we add that to every single corner. Boom. And I would say we'd probably do this, and then and actually our graph would go more straight up because we're at full throttle. So this is how, these are the peaks where we're just never accelerating. So every time we get on the gas, it should be, not like that. It should be basically, you know, kind of like this, boom, on throttle, off throttle. Boom, on throttle, and then off throttle, right? That's how our throttle traces need to look always. This should look like this all the way over to here, then down, right? Off throttle, boom, on throttle. That's how it needs to be. The difference between an amateur racer and a professional racer is that an amateur is on the throttle significantly more than a professional, but a professional is at full throttle significantly more. Here, I mean, this is just it's something it's something that I worry about because it's something that becomes very comfortable to do, and we start to tell ourselves it's really not changing anything that much. But at the end of the day, the issue with that is we then start going, well, why is the time not there? And we start pushing in other areas. We start, trying to drive the car in too hot into corners or carrying too much speed and sliding off the track and things like this. And that's how things get broken. So at the end of the day, we need to maximize what is in our wheelhouse. And in our wheelhouse, I mean, we need to be on throttle between every corner. We need to be reaching flat out. If we're not, then there's a fundamental issue that we need to figure out. So this really, I mean, this data is hard to analyze from the point that we're never full throttle. So we're accelerating out, but we're not really accelerating out. So I'll try to adjust, but anyway, in saying that, as we look at the data, so how our straight should look is probably a little bit more like this. And then, okay, boom, we brake, braking, braking, braking. The way that you do it where we, you really V, here, I'm going to just get rid of that because we really V our speed. That's what we want to see. That is really what we want to see. We want to, really come to our mid-corner speed, boom, stop the car, and then accelerate out. That's how our speed trace should look. And so, yeah, we're turning all the time. So really, our throttle is we should basically be able to do this, get right to full throttle, have the lift for the shift. That's how we want to do it. And we can do it. I mean, the car is there. The car is stuck the whole way through. So there's nothing really preventing us from being quick through 1 and 2 there, other than just ourselves. Now, as we come to 2, this is where we need to do like we did in turn 1, where we really stop and start the car. That's what we want to achieve everywhere. So we want to, from our braking point, bring the speed in and then bring the speed out. So this is how, this is how it would look rather than, right? So when I cut back to the video, we'll be able to see that. See, we're kind of already back to throttle, but we're not really back to throttle. We need to delay that. So what we want to do is we should be attacking in here all the way, but then we get the car to the right side, we brake into the apex, and then we don't get on throttle till about here. We want to delay our initial throttle. We want to get the car in, get the car pointed. So when we get on throttle, we know we're going to lift the nose, we're going to transfer all the weight to the rear, and the car is going to launch out of the corner. But if we're kind of just like, then we're never going to get the proper weight transfer to really make the car work. So we want to come in, boom, slam the nose on the ground, get the car to point into the corner. Once we hit the apex, we get past our mid corner, boom, on the throttle, transfer that weight to the rear, get the car to launch out of the corner and give us that rear grip. Okay. But when we're on throttle through the corner, we've just lifted the nose a bit. So the car will have a little bit more understeer. We never really maximize the capability of the car. We don't maximize our exit and we don't maximize our entry. Because at the end of the day, we're stopping the car too soon. We're stopping the car too soon, getting on the throttle too soon, and not getting to full throttle soon enough. Okay? So we want to change that around. If we brake later, we brake into the corner, that keeps the car pinned, gets the nose or gets the car rotated. We start to look down the track, we get on the power, and that's going to allow us to get to full throttle sooner. we may have a slightly lower mid-corner speed, but we're, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a Corvette, and it doesn't matter what car we're in. It doesn't matter if we're in a Formula One car. No car handles better than it stops and goes. It just doesn't exist. So we want to maximize our braking, maximize our acceleration, because cornering is not this car's cup of tea. So we want to brake in, get the best braking, the best deceleration possible. So shorten our time that we're not at top speed. So shorten our time that we're actually in a braking zone. We want to bring that braking zone as deep into the corner as possible. That's how we shorten that. And then from the point we get on acceleration, we want to be getting to full throttle in as short a period of time as possible as well. That allows us to realistically maximize the exit, the entry and the exit. And then realistically, we do want to be using all the road here. Once we're able to, pin the nose, look down the track a bit, then realistically, that's when we're going to be able to pick out, yeah, okay, I can use all the road here. I come back, boom, boom. Okay. Now we're going to get into the actually discussing the lines. So we kind of miss it, and then we sort of just get on power, and we sort of drive it through. Now, there's no reason for us to never touch full throttle there. But we're on the power, and we just sort of drive it around the corner. Okay, so the issue there is that if we attack into here a little bit more, drive it in harder like this, we're on the brakes, get the car to rotate, and away we go. It's kind of like a double apex. That's what we want to achieve. When I cut back to our data, so here we are here. Okay, so yeah, we have turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Okay, well, turn 3 on the data. So here we have where we've slowed the car down, right? Then we kind of drive it through the corner, then we accelerate out a little bit. Okay. This is not like, I mean, this isn't what we want to achieve, because obviously we can brake a bit later. So realistically, once we fix, I think it's actually called turn 3, but once we fix the left-hander and we're up here, then we're braking from here, and we're going to brake, decelerate the car like this, boom, boom, double apex the car, come out like this. So when we look at it, yes, we will have a lower mid-corner speed, but we come in, we don't have a braking trace, I don't believe. Well, we kind of do here. Okay, so let me try this. Just a second. Okay, so I've put in our braking trace. So realistically, when we're coming into the corner, we want to be accelerating, boom. Then we want to hit the brake. So we want our braking trace, like, I mean, this is going to 50 bar, which is pretty low pressure, but I mean, what pressure you can get to, like what the maximum braking pressure you can get to before you have locking, not me, but 50 bar does sound pretty low. But anyway, we brake, and then really what we want to be doing is we kind of come out of the brake like this, right to our apex point. So we're feeding out of the brake, trying to get it into the apex, right? And we're keeping the nose pinned. That's what's going to allow us to come down in such a steep manner. We're going down through the downshifts properly. And then from there, we get on throttle there. And so we get on throttle like this, boom. And we get on throttle like this all the way up to 100. And then 100 over to here. So that's how we get this steep acceleration. So look at where you're on power. You're on power over here. And we want to be getting on power here, right? So we're way later on power. But with that, we're getting the car rotated and we're getting to full throttle. That's really the goal. We're trying. We shouldn't be able to just go straight to full throttle, because then that would mean that, like we can't just do a straight line up and go full throttle, because that would mean that, we are too late on power. But we should be rolling it in very quickly to get to that maximum power as soon as we can. So we can be braking for a slightly longer period of time per se, but braking into the corner a little bit deeper. What I think will happen is we will realistically start braking probably about here. We'll brake a little bit. We can't see anything now. We'll brake a little bit later and kind of come into the braking zone here. Boom. Right? So we're getting the nose down and then just trying to keep the nose down, but we're trying to get it into the apex nicely as well. Okay? So that's really a big thing. And then we get the car rotated and boom, we shoot it out. It's going to be the same for the next one as well. Like, we come in here and, so our acceleration out is like this. And then, boom, we brake. Now, here, personally, I would like to see it a little bit more like this, where we brake it way into the corner and then accelerate it out of the corner. So again, we're trying to make that V. Now, this is the long left-hander under the bridge. So what you've done is we stop the car early. Then we start to turn in the car and we just drive it around at this throttle. And then we kind of get to a fuller throttle and then out of the throttle. So we stop the car and then turn it. What we really want to do here is, when we hit the brake, we want to drag this braking out as long as possible, because we want to get the car in as deep around the corner as possible. It doesn't matter that we're reaching a lower minimum speed, because we're getting the car in deeper, getting the car to rotate, and then shooting out. So if this is the corner here, right now what we're doing, you're going to be the blue line, is we kind of stop the car. We're stopped the car at this point, and then we just kind of drive it around to here. Then we start to accelerate out. What I want to be doing is driving it in hard, clipping, coming through here. Here is where we're on the brake to. Basically, we're clip, on the brake to here, getting the car rotated on the power. And we're using all the road, but we're just apexing 1 and 2, or 1 and 2, right? So we're just kind of double apexing. So we're on the brakes, we're turning in, and we're trying to turn it in more and more and more. We're on the brakes and we clip and we're like, oh, we're coming off the apex. Oh, okay, now car finally starts to rotate in the mid corner. Okay, once it starts to rotate and we can see that we're going to hit the next apex, we're on the power, we're looking at our exit, we're looking down the road, looking ahead, so eyes up, looking ahead, and we're on the power, shooting the car out of the corner. Okay, so now I'm going to cut to, so this is what we want. We want to basically stop in, go out. We don't want to drive through the corner. We don't want to stop before the corner and then drive to the next point before we can get on the power. That's how we just waste time. So if we cut back to the video, so we kind of want to diamond this a little bit more. We come over to here. We want to turn in. So we want to turn in a little bit earlier, right? We want to, not much earlier, but just a little bit earlier so that we have like clipping point number 1. We're clipping, car comes out a little bit wider, and then we're clipping on the way back, right? That's what we want to be doing. But see, we're on power here, and then we just drive it around, 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 and then we accelerate. So obviously, there's probably a good second that we're leaving on the table just in there. So attack it in, boom, we're on the brakes. So it's gonna be like this. We're on the brakes through here, we clip, we get the car to rotate. Okay, now we're getting off brakes. Now we're kind of have a little bit of a coast just while we get the car to rotate and start to turn so that we know our heading. And then boom, we're on power and accelerating out. Okay, so we just want to double apex that a little bit more. That's really what we want to shoot for. And from this point, we can see the exit. So at this point, we can see, okay, there's my exit. Here's the line I'm taking out to my exit. I can be on full throttle now because I can make that line. All right. So we need to be thinking ahead of what we're doing. See, right now we're just reacting to what was happening around us. We see, oh, okay, now there's a straight section. So now I can add a little bit of throttle. What we need to do is be preemptive and say, okay, that's where I'm going to. I believe that my car can still continue to turn to get to there. So now I'm, boom, on the throttle. And then here, let's not overcomplicate it. Bring it in, get it down here. Because when we turn off here, you know, it just upsets the car and we're not really getting it fully right. So bring it in here and same thing. We diamond the other way. We go boom, apex, apex. We clip, clip, and away we go. So here I think we just turn in super, super late, too late. But then we realistically need to be getting to full throttle. And then from here, really the goal is we want to try to be aggressive with the car. So we get the car kind of traveling in this line where we get it turned and then get it sort of heading down towards the apex here. And boom, clipping that apex. I'm going to cut to the data for a second. So this is where we go through the left-hander. Then this is where we go through the long right. So again, I realistically want our data to look more like this, where, okay, we come out, boom. I think we can brake a little bit later, but anyway, then we come out, boom, brake in, and then we come out. So look at all the area over the grass, the blue graph, okay? And I'm being generous here. I think, you know, realistically we'll probably be braking a little bit later, getting on the power a little bit sooner, like this, you know. I think that's how our graphs would realistically look. Get on power sooner, up to here. But that's really what we need to achieve is we need to be way more boom, 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 boom. You know, it needs to be point to point a lot better. And then that's really where there's a lot of time on the table. And our RPM, same thing. It should be boom, 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 boom. You know, it should be, everything should be direct. It shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't be smooth. It needs to be boom, boom, right? We really need to maximize each and every point. So then we really come on to the main straight here in the last sort of section. In the data, it's pretty hard to see because, again, I think we need to be getting to full throttle, and that will change the way that our graphs are. Like, I mean, really from here, it should be like, okay, then it comes down, then it comes down, then it comes up, then it goes down, then it goes up, like that. That's how it kind of needs to be. So here, I'm going to cut back to the video. So we should be flat here, get the car out, not necessarily wider, but just try to get the car rotated so that we're just pointed, you know, right now we're pointed like this. I just want to be pointed a little bit more like this so that we're traveling more in this direction rather than this direction, right? And then that's going to really help us through here, carry our speed through this left, clip, boom. As the point that we clip, then we're on power. Then we, you know, slow up. Like, we take the same speed through this whole section. We're just decelerating, 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 decelerating. So we're just coasting it through the whole section. So it's basically like the section is just in our way, and we're just waiting until the end, and then we're accelerating again. We need to be, you know, really attacking, getting it in, getting it to the left, setting up the left so that we can get a better run through the right. Because once we're the run through the right, so really what we want to be doing here, we want to set this corner up as much as possible where we're tucked to the left so that we get a great run through the right, so that we have a great run down the straight, our most important corners on the track. Okay, so as we come through here, we want to hug the left. We want to get on the power, hug the left. Then we're over here and we get a great entry through the right-hander. Boom. On power at the apex. I think we can carry a bit more speed across that one for sure, because we have a lot of road to play with. And realistically, we have to think about, if we use more road here, then we're more straight across the hump here. So it makes our lives easier. So let's attack that right-hander a little bit more, and then away we go. All right, so the biggest thing, without a doubt, is we need to be getting to full throttle between every single corner. If we're not doing that, then we need to analyze why we're not doing that first, okay? But all right, mate, we'll talk soon, and I promise you the next one will be turned around in an instant. I genuinely promise. All right, sorry for the issues on this one.